Welcome back, everyone. Today I've got William Hughes with us again with Zoj, and we were just talking after our interview video, and he was telling me that the state of the XRPL and is not as secure. Not, I mean, it's secure, but it is not as large as sometimes that I have thought it to be. And so we were talking about value being brought to to the token based upon having a validator. And upon having that conversation, uh, how do I say this? I'm not getting this right, William, but the you were talking about how it's not as I don't know what the word is, not as
Stable.
stable as we might think sometimes. And so we know we had some blackout days previously a couple months ago with the XRPL that, of course, it recovered. Everything was fine from my knowledge, but it was the fact that that happened, and I think it was due to a programming error, showed a few things. And so, can you just elaborate on what you were telling me before? I've already my hamster memory. I've already forgotten some of the things you told me here. Can you just elaborate and tell the users or the watchers and the viewers what you were telling me about how Zoj is uh, by having its own validator is bringing use case to Zoj itself, and as well as the state of the XRPL network. So just I'll let you go. Go on.
Right. Awesome. So anybody can go to xrpscan.com/validators, and you will be able to see a list of all of the validators that are out there, both main and testnet. Testnet doesn't matter too much because that's just something that people run to facilitate testing, obviously. But the main ones, we have about 116 now, and we did have 119 at the end of 2021. So, and we've had a little bit of blackouts, possibly due to coding issues, but I do know that each server running validation represents close to 1%. So every server is absolutely critical.
Mhm.
And at this time, I haven't seen any actual analytics on how much we can withstand at this state. But what I can say for certain is that if we actually do see a great migration, a switch flipped, a green wave, and a lot of people entering the space, it is almost certain that our current infrastructure probably won't be able to handle that without outages. And on a
Hmm.
on a simple principle scale, a lot of businesses will deploy a website. The website's running fine. Then the right switches in society flip, and the website gets bombarded. It goes offline, and you have outages. Well, in a very fast-moving economic system, having outages can cost people tremendous amounts of money. The validators are absolutely essential to it
Mhm.
running, and any tokens that are running a validator are making it possible for every other token as well as XRP to be transacted in a timely manner at a secure, in a secure way. So essentially what I would say is the validators are absolutely critical. And at this time, I highly doubt that we have enough out there to withstand even our community doubling or tripling in size. That would be really rough. So if we had 119 at the end of last year and we're at 116 now, I would say that we as a community need to take a squinty eye look at this and say we can do better. And
Mhm.
as projects, we should. So I know Zoj transacts far less on the ledger as far as utilization than what our validator is taking care of, right? So as far as work throughput, we're a net positive, and we've always been to the XRP ledger. Many projects not running validators, well, obviously they're not doing that part. So at the end of the day, if we have outages, trust me, there was 2 days of rough seas and outages,
Mhm.
and it was in the middle of me trying to do things, and it was very difficult, right? You would try to sign a transaction, it wouldn't work. But here's the main caveat to that. It's all about perception. And when you have a massive networking outage because you do have a great amount of people come in, the perception for a simple company like Blizzard having their website go out is like, they crashed. It's kind of funny because nobody's really hurt. But when you have a backbone financial system have an issue like that, people can really actually get hurt in the trade. Let's say you went in with the whole group that's coming into the XRP ledger and you try to buy some and you keep trying and you can't. And then by the time that you actually can, it's went up 30x. Of course, you're going to be furious and you're going to say, look, man, they don't even have the infrastructure. The amount of FUD that would come off of that from other people wouldn't be good. I mean, of course, we would get past it, but there's no need for us to have those kinds of things. People can run validators, regular people. You can set these up and so can projects. And I strongly recommend that we get more of them because Ripple as a company can't do it all.
Yep.
And there's reasons, right? So they have the SEC over them, decentralized or centralized arguments and battles constantly. If they deploy 100 servers overnight, unless they've got the blessing from the government, this is going to make them instantly centralized. They control the validation. With that many servers, one could adjust the validation. And that's a really important thing to understand. It's much like the consensus of mining, where if you have the larger supply, 51% of the mining of a blockchain, you can fraudulently create tokens. Well, if you have the control of all of the validation, then people can be nefarious. So nobody wants it centralized. Ripple doesn't want it centralized. We don't want it centralized, right?
Absolutely.
But for it to be decentralized, we have to take some ownership on what we're creating here as a community, as a whole. And yeah, there's many different ways to do it, but the best thing is you got some options. You could find a legitimate person to help you. There's always risk with that, right? But you could find an organization like Block to help you. That's a great solution.
Yeah, Block oversight. Yeah.
Yes, they have people in there that do know about this stuff. Or you can do what many people have done in the past and say, okay, what do I need? Go read that validator documentation from Ripple, right? They have it out there. You have to read it. It's techie, it's confusing, but there are many people far better than me at doing that kind of stuff. So they can easily get in there, read that, and start doing the steps.
So you're telling me that everyone is waiting, and we've all heard it, like this switch flip, great migration, whatever. And as soon as as soon as that switch is flipped, you're expecting, and I'm no expert in this, and I yield to your experience in this, and I'm trying to learn. Is one of the reasons I have my channel and share those learnings with the community. Is that once that switch is flipped, you're saying there's going to be a power outage and it's going to be nothing? Like what's the reality there,
well,
William?
I don't want to be an alarmist for people, right? I don't want to say, hey, we're all going
I'm
to
waiting
see
for that
it.
switch. Like I want that thing flipped.
Everybody wants the switch, and
Yeah.
even Schwartz is teasing us about it. He's
Yeah.
like, should I flip the switch on dates that don't exist at the end of a month? Just to mess with people's heads and stuff. But at the end of the day, we want people to come into the space because people bring so much. I mean, not only does it make the ecosystem more wealthy, but it brings more content creators, producers, and at the end of the day, businesses and health. It's what cryptos want to do. They want to grow, right? So we need to get more people in, but if we have a switch flip or we have a large onboarding, just like a website, just like anything else, you have so much resources to facilitate these needs. And with 116 servers, I can't say that the network will crash, but I also won't say that we're going to be rock solid through all of it, because if you start getting really high TPS, transactions per second, and everybody's just boom, 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 if each server represents close to 1% of that, just a few people stopping their server at that critical time, or
Losing power, etc.
Right. There's a number of things that can happen, and Ripple cannot pay for everything, even if they want to. Like, even when they give out funding for like different things for people to do, there's a lot of argument that it's basically they're just outsourcing it and technically they own it, especially if they consider or continually pay for it. But you got to think in this space, we've got great things coming in like Flare and all these other. Flare dropped like 5 servers, right? So it's big stuff that really helps us, but we're going to need more, in my opinion. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say I was hoping Ripple could essentially put up a grant or something like that for projects that are wanting to, and maybe Block can assist with trying to encourage that, where they can do something monetary wise to help people who are wanting to set up servers. I don't know what training is out there. Like if that's something that like that I could create as content to help set up a validator, I would have no idea. I would totally need someone's help with that. But would love to figure that out. But let's talk about the cost a second. The like how much does it cost? You said like last video was like $3,000 to set up your validator and then a monthly cost for internet and power. Like those are eating out of your, I mean, you're not taking from the project. That's eating out of what you're personally putting in from what I thought was correct.
Correct. So we bought our hardware. I did an analysis, bought a 1U rack mount server. That a picture of that is in the white paper for Zoj. And
Okay.
we are on XRP scan as Zoj Rocket 1.cc, and we are at the current version. I just recently updated it. But the point of all of it is enterprise level solutions are terribly difficult. So the average person will not be able to do what I did. I happen to have a 1 gigabit connection and have put QoS to that server. So my validator gets my internet connection and I get what's left. And
Okay.
I'm good with that. But as a whole, the hardware at this point is not too demanding as far as expectations, but in the future it may be more. People who can't host a server or buy the hardware themselves, they can do it through Amazon Web Service. You can purchase basically by month rent, right? Not only the hardware, but a good solution as far as the connection goes, and you'd be able to set it up on that. Now, as far as documentation goes, people run it on all forms of Linux distros, and it gets pretty techy because the commands are different, the
Mhm.
setups for each are different. I tried running a validator on Ubuntu, Red Hat, Cent, and one other. But the point was that I finally settled on one, and just for the sake of security, I'm not going to say, but
That's fine.
um, as far as the help of everything, like the stuff is fairly tricky. And my recommendation would be for a project or a person to contact a group that actually has one and get some assistance with it, asking the questions, because not only is the documentation fairly incomplete, the documentation doesn't cover all of the steps of everything. So if you don't have Linux experience, you're going to have a rough time. If you do have Linux experience, it'll probably go smoother, but your variation of Linux may not be one of the ones that you can even put it on. So I don't know too much on that front, but there are some that are approved, and that's what I went with deploying the Zojus one.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, maybe you can help provide some links that we can put in the description below about who like to get in touch with or to try to create a validator. But we definitely want to make sure the ecosystem is supported because we all know that the SEC case is, they don't, I don't feel like they have not financial or legal advice, but I don't feel like they have a leg to stand on like at all here. And I'm just waiting for for the judge to be like, you know what, this is done. Like stick a fork in it. So,
Absolutely.
and we
Yeah.
want to be ready for that time. So I just encourage all projects out there to make sure that if you can run a validator, that it might be a good investment for everyone involved if you did. So,
Right. And as far as lending credence to a leg to stand on, at this time, because the validation, the ledger can be argued as a decentralized object, that gives Ripple strength. But if Ripple has to come in and add more servers, it can then be argued that No, they are a centralized project. And then that can be used as a tool against Ripple. So I'm sure Ripple is sitting there going, yeah, we could definitely use some new servers, especially if this kicks off the settlement or whatever the case ends. They're going to, at least for a time, there's going to be the need.
Yeah, what I would personally like to see Ripple do is to have, like, they have the ability, I'm sure, I'm not sure what their capabilities are, but to manufacture like these things and just spit them out. Like, hey, it already has the software on it. Have some training. Have some, have a like a web series like where they introduce them to things. So if people just want to buy a validator to support, like, let's say the switch gets flipped, all of a sudden things look really good for some of us. Maybe I can just buy a validator and be like, just run it off the side. You know what I mean? But I don't have that option to just buy it off the market and say, hey, here's the thing. Like, maybe because I think Gala did something like that where you could buy like a Gala box. I would love to see them copy kind of something of that model, and educate people to be able to run it and keep it decentralized. And that way they could make, I'm not sure if they could make money doing that or not. I'm not sure what the legalities are, but
Yeah, I'd imagine that they would probably have to run it as a nonprofit part, because if they were to do that, you don't get paid to run a validator. So people buying into hardware and doing it is all basically altruism, to the degree of not only that, but also supporting where they exist or where they transact. But there's a little bit of a security loophole with anything that isn't well, anything that is proprietary and is not independently produced. And one of the best things about everybody creating their own validators is the plethora of uniqueness to each one,
true.
and the security layers that offers. To hack one validator would be a fantastic feat, right, for somebody, but to hack a large amount of validators to pull off something sketchy would
And
be
mass
theory.
producing them. Yeah. Okay.
Right. Right. So then, yeah, you get it.
I gotcha. I might not be as good of an idea, but I'm just hoping something happens. But I just wanted to bring this to the community because it's something that when he brought up, or William brought up, that I thought was really eye-opening, and something that the community needs to really address. And I don't know how we're going to get past it. I'm not saying I have the solution. I just want to say, hey, here's the problem. Let's at least agree on the problem, and maybe we can help find how to get more validators out there in the future. So,
Right. And as a last note, I would rather see a um
increase.
steady amount of in like validators than a decline. And from what I've seen from the end of 2021 until now, that's a 3 difference decline. And as we get a little bit lower, if that does keep trending that way, every server really is at that 1% of everything, and it's every one is so critical. So yeah.
So you're saying you've seen a decline since 2020? What?
At the end of 2021, we had 119. Now we have 116. And I'm not sure if some are just off because of outages at this time, but we got 2 on reads that are null, and we're at 116. So my perception is 114. And that that's starting to get my eyes open, because I know we were at 119 at the end of 2021, because that's when we brought ours on, which made the 119th one.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, like, we're not, anyone that's running a node is not doing it for the uh because they're getting XRP out of it. Like you said, it's purely altruistic. And so I'm not sure how it's gonna support the global ISO 2022. I'm not sure how that's all gonna work. Maybe it's gonna be more proprietary, or I don't know. Like, is there gonna be a different set of nodes for, like, if that's used for banks? I don't know if XRP is used for banks and all that, or is it gonna stay, like, that's all
Right.
questions
So
I have. So
yeah,
I
that's a
wanted to wrap
really
up, but I'm like, I'm really curious.
it's a really good question. So listening to David Schwartz last speak at the Bitcoin conference, his primary focus was federated sidechains, and he said that many people were asking for them. But my question to him on that was who? Because I exist in the XRPL space. I talk to many token devs. I talked to the community, I talked to a lot of people, and
Mhm.
I didn't see anybody asking for that. So then where is he getting the questions from if not the community? So one is left to assume that he's getting it from financial organizations for
Gotcha.
federated sidechains. So my assumption from that would then be that more than likely we will see federated sidechains handle CBDCs and things like that. I know people don't necessarily want to hear that, but just keep in mind they still operate off of the ledger, right? At the end of the day, it's definitely going to be a massive gain to XRP, but federated sidechains will essentially be servers that are then connected as bridges into the XRP and the ledger, and they'll
So,
be running their own, and they can have tokens underneath them as well, but they will be also their own native assets. So it's super cool.
so we're going to start to see banks create their own validators, you think, whenever they start to get into things? Like, is that what you're thinking we're going to see?
I think I'm not sure how they're going to display them visually to the community, whether these will be hidden servers, because I know that they're going to be able to make the currencies hidden. And it makes sense that they would make the currencies hidden because here's a good thing right now. We're seeing it, the potentiality of large scale conflict or war.
Hmm.
Banks and all of these things will all be transacting large sums in and out of countries as a general means of, this is normal financial activity. However, everything on the XRP ledger is visible to all. So if you start seeing funds exodus a country, and then you see a week later our media start to talk about how we're going to go to war with them because of stuff that's going on there, then you can really see that things are a bit more pre-planned. So they're not going to really want the layman, the average person, to be able to trend them, because
Hmm.
that's what that would offer. And we know that they do operate, they pull strings and they operate more in the veil of secrecy. So federated sidechains offer that layer of secrecy. I suspect CBDCs, banks, things like that will be using them. They'll build their own trust networks, and they will deploy, they will have to create servers, and these servers will be the intermediary between the ledger and those currencies that they create that are shadowed out for everybody else. But how that will work with validation inside, it depends on how they implement that code. Those servers may just operate on the federated sidechain as far as crunching their subledgers,
Hmm.
or they may be assisting XRP. But either way, if we really start getting all of that big player activity in the space, we will get help with validators. But XRP as a whole, going into this, there will be a time where we will probably need some support prior to um, everything going into full swing.
Gotcha. I don't want to stick around for too long of a video. If you have questions for William, I guess put them down in the description below or hit up, what is it? It's Zoj. Like, what is
Oh,
your
at Classy Zoj
Classy
on
Zoj on
Twitter.
Twitter? Okay.
Yeah.
And hopefully he'll be able to answer some of your questions about that. Again, I just wanted to bring this to the community because it's not something that I think makes its way out there a lot. And I thought it was an extremely good point by a developer and by one of the creators of our community's tokens. So let me know your thoughts, and I hope this gets picked up and shared a lot so that we can figure out a solution. So that make sure that we're not relying on Ripple for everything, so they can win their case and we can do what we need to do. So, but thanks so much for joining us again, William. And I'm JTXRP. This is William. Uh, check the description below for stuff. But we're out. Bye.